You're about to listen to a podcast from the Firearms Radio Network. For more, visit firearmsradio.net.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for choosing This Week in Guns, brought to you by Patriot Patch Company, MAF Corporation, Traditional Arms, and FFL Payments. This show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Matthew LaRosiere, and I am joined by popular decree by Ivan.
It's me.
And also this guy.
Hi, I'm Matthias.
It's Matthias.
I'm not allowed on this show anymore. I've been asking to get on for a while, and I finally had to ransom Matt. I have something he wants, so I was like, well, I won't even begin to think about trading you unless you let me on. He's like, fine, I guess. I'd rather have Carl on, but we're doing this instead.
That's totally what happened. And I have gotten all these comments saying, why won't you let Matthias back on?
He's too good at being friends with Carl.
Yeah, everything Matthias just said is true. It's not because every time I'm like, hey, we're going to record, he goes, I'm so busy, I'm reading book.
I feel bad. I haven't been on since I recommended Carl, and then everybody apparently got mad about that. So my bad. But
yeah, you're the reason we had that, and it was a great episode. It was one of my favorite episodes, but apparently my the overall audience didn't agree, and I don't care. I'm still planning on having it back on, but he gets all. A lot like you, he gets all, I'm so busy. I'm not answering my phone.
Yeah, but I don't
blame me.
I am busy. I don't believe Carl. No, you know what's funny is I would call myself a friend of Carl's. Like, well, I don't know if close friend is the right word because we've never hung out in person, but I talk to him from time to time, probably about every other month, I think. And
he's cool to talk to.
We have very different opinions on a lot of things, but he's willing to talk to me about that. Mm-hmm. And then I've told this to Carl's face, so I'm not spreading anything. He goes on Twitter and just like, blah, blah, which is not at all like when he films and when he goes on Twitter, he's so like unilateral. When you're actually talking to him, you can have a conversation, which is why I recommended that he should come on here, because having something to talk about back and forth would be nice. The only problem is, I guess it didn't go that back and forth because when it comes to Second Amendment stuff, he's actually pretty tight on Second Amendment stuff. So,
I mean, we got into some funny little areas. Yeah. But anyway, all that doesn't matter. Everyone is welcome here, or something. So let's get into the news. There's been a lot of really. It's a big ATF week as far as the news is concerned. And I'm not sure whether that's a good or a bad thing. Like, let's start off because we're gonna talk about a few things. We're talking about some general news about the ATF. We'll talk about some things that are looking somewhat positive, and then we'll talk about all of the rest of the things. So, first off, we've got. Well, I don't really know if this is under the positive column or not, right? This is general news. Kash Patel is removed as acting ATF director. And this came in a few days ago, and we have this man, he never photographs the same way. So like, of course, he was bizarrely both ATF and FBI at the same time. They swapped him out with Army Secretary Driscoll, and apparently they're mulling over merging ATF with DEA. I do not know what the hell.
We've almost got like full circle, right?
Yeah.
Well, no. We're just a different. You know what though? If they put ATF under DEA, that might actually get to the point.
It'll be great. It'll be just like it was back during Prohibition.
Well, sort of, except for the thing is during Prohibition, they at least, it's funny, but it's kind of like the same way they went after the mob. They went after the stuff they couldn't regulate by going through the tax code.
Right.
But we've dropped the pretense of the tax code. Like it's so funny.
We're no longer pretending we're making any money off of this. We're just hurting people.
But the parallel here is very odd because you talk about, okay, what if we merged under DEA? And everybody goes, yeah, because enforcement. And you're going, but, okay, so the reason we can't have machine guns is that we can have machine guns, but we have to pay a tax unless it's after 1986 because magic. You know what I mean? Like, and really the only thing that's magic about the 1980, wait, is it 86? Am I getting that right? Sorry, it's late at night. Yeah. The only thing that's magic about the 86 year is that was the year where everybody forgot that this was an end run around an unconstitutional ban.
Right.
And so, like, the whole, I mean, okay, the NFA is its own thing, but the post-86 ban is the most ludicrously transparent violation of a right simply because the basis of the NFA was a tax, not a ban, and then you put a ban on top of it.
All of the congressional hearings about the tax treatment are, we did this so that we could get away with it, because if we banned it, that would be unconstitutional.
And then they waited long enough for everybody to kind of not know what that meant anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did the thing. And at the time, media was in their pocket, like TV was playing up silencers and all this other crazy. Like, no one really knew what they were doing. It wasn't like, the internet's really brought back the NFA items, but it's short barrel rifles, silencers, stuff like that. It's not that they didn't exist, but they're very rare considerations up until the 86 ban, except for the early 80s is when people started realizing, wait, I can just pay $200 and do this. And they're like, yeah. And they started writing about it in magazines. Like, I've read them. And they're like, no. The companies were telling people, and you had companies that were basically making submachine guns and other stuff that were very inexpensive. And suddenly, with the 80s surge in the inflationary aspect and the wealth that was moving around at that time in the early 80s in the US, people were like, oh, I can do this. The next thing you know, the ATF's like, crap, they're doing the thing we didn't want them to know they could do. What are we going to do?
But remember the 922-0, the FOPA ban was never supposed to pass.
Right.
It was literally anti-gun. Well, there's a mixture of Dems and Republicans at the time going, oh, well, we can't let them pass this industry protection bill, so let's put in this stupid ban. They'll never sign it. And then the Republicans just go, and everyone's kind of like, what just happened?
Yeah.
The Hughes himself had calculated, I guess, I'm sure his strategy team had calculated that stipulating that machine guns would be banned would get NRA to withdraw their support of FOPA. And if there was so many things moving and happening with FOPA that had NRA withdrawn their support, at the very least, it wouldn't have got a vote. If it did get a vote, it would not have passed without NRA's endorsement.
Right.
And the NRA, Reagan met with NRA, and the conversation supposedly went that Reagan said, I will veto this if you say to veto this, whether or not you guys want to withdraw support to save face, I'll fall on that sword. And NRA is like, don't worry about it. We'll challenge this in the courts.
Jesus.
And it just never happens.
Yeah.
And that, it's a tricky thing. I think Othnius was leading to it, that gun magazines at the time are a really interesting way to sort of glimpse into the way these things were perceived in the past, because by and large, the gun-owning public did not approve of machine gun ownership. The general public gun-owning consensus was very much, at what we call today FUD. They viewed machine guns as, these people are just asking for government intervention. This is trouble. This stuff, if this stuff was banned and it means we can keep our guns that we already have and like, that's great. But there in the early 80s, that market was quickly changing to people realizing, well, I can afford a machine gun. $200 in the 80s wasn't cheap, but it wasn't like $200 in the 30s. A bunch of people realize they can have machine guns, and a bunch of cheap machine guns come onto the market. And people are realizing they can do this and realizing it's cool. And you sort of have those, the first big flourishing of what we see today as the more tactical gun market, where people are buying guns not for a hunting purpose or not for, this would be fun to plink with at the range, but this is a practical rifle for if I had to defend myself with a gun. And
everything in development of firearms is a spectrum. It's one thing begets another in these strange, erratic ways. We were talking about the development of a certain rifle earlier today. But I will say, to build on what Ivan just said a minute ago, I am starting to believe that what we consider modern shooting emerged in the early to mid 80s. In a way that you would like, if you're looking at the color spectrum, eventually this thing that is blue becomes this thing that you can quantify as purple. So I'm not saying there's not innovations all the way back to the beginning that come forward. And certainly everything post-war sort of leads to it eventually. It marches that direction. But I will say this sort of like handgun carbine obsessed, civilian use of force / it's funny is we tend to think of firearms nowadays when we talk about tactical, we talk about it as small teams, police, and personal. Whereas before, when you talked about tactics immediately post-war, people would be thinking hundreds, if not thousands, of men moving around.
Yeah.
So this whole like the number of people that are engaged in tactics has gotten much smaller and smaller and smaller, and it becomes much more personal and individual. And that really does seem to take hold, especially in the civilian population in that period, which is when they pull this funny trick of turning what was definitely not a ban into a ban.
Yeah.
And then the NRA is going, don't worry, we'll challenge it in the courts because it's clearly you can't make a end run around the ban into a ban. No one would.
I know we've talked about it before on the show, but for people who don't realize, FOPA was pretty important because it was there in the 80s, right? The 80s was also sort of, it's not quite, but it was sort of the birth of the modern American gun control movement. So past the point that they're trying to ban people of certain ethnicities from owning guns, and past the point that they're really putting their whole support behind handgun bans. Yes, they continue doing handgun bans into the 90s, but
it became the egalitarian anti-gun movement,
right?
The equal rights gun opposition movement.
The two things that were really being targeted by anti-gunners were shipments of ammo. Right, they wanted to make it more difficult to get ammo, or they were trying to integrate ammo into the FFL system, right? So you'd have to have it shipped to an FFL to be able to pick it up. The other thing that they were really trying to go for was making it so that the California was really sort of ahead of the curve on banning configurations of firearms, but they were trying to stipulate that to transport a firearm, it had to be disassembled in such a manner, or you couldn't take parts of the rifle with you, right? And then this was all model legislation at this point. But FOPA was meant to sort of preempt that at the federal level to say, ammunition can be shipped as long as it's done like this. And a firearm can be transported across any state, regardless of what those states' law are, as long as it's, in a box, out of reach, locked up in a car, etc. Right? So it establishes a federal baseline for how the firearms protection, the owner's protection, right? Because people like to say,
it prevents like interdictions right on state borders.
Right. It prevents California from having like stops at its borders trying to see if you have a gun at the very least, or it was probably aimed to prevent California from having an ammo background check system, but much like what's the other one? There's FOPA, and then there's the more modern one,
PLACA.
Much like PLACA, states have found their ways to undermine FOPA as much as possible. Because even a state like Illinois or any of the other states that have permits to own. Just to transport the gun, doing FOPA style transport, if you're a resident of that state, you have to have the license, which is kind of silly. But that's sort of the situation we find ourselves in, is that these were passed with very good intentions, and it was important, just as important as PLACA was at the time it passed. It was kind of essential, really. FOPA was a very important piece of legislation, and they were, the anti-gunners were very, very sure that they would be able to stop it by making a very poorly written machine gun ban. Only it didn't stop it. And the machine gun ban stuck around. And so and that's why we have the situation we have today, where ATF sort of has to like invent a loophole for SOTs to be able to have machine guns but not possess machine guns unless they have a law letter. And the law letter is not actually in the law. That's a entirely fictitious thing the ATF's made up to say that like, that's by the authority of a police agency. It's an absolute mess, and certainly Hughes should go away. And there's been legislation, right? There's legislation under the second Bush administration to try and fix Hughes, but there certainly wasn't the political appetite then, and I doubt that there is now. But it's a really, really poorly crafted law.
Yeah, it's really messed up. It's obviously constitutionally suspect, and the problem is that you have the federal judiciary's rule of our pro-gun jurisprudence says what it says unless we're uncomfortable.
Yes,
and we've never, like, the machine gun question is just really stupid because the public has never been properly apprised of what they're actually dealing with. And I think a lot of it, the people who are in power now, especially in the federal judiciary, are people who came into they were fully formed professional adults in that FOPA era where, and to your point, Othnius, people now talk about like the sporting purposes test and they're like, what do you mean I can't import an AK for sports? Obviously, I'm going to use that for sports, like the, whatever shooting sports I do that's very clearly small unit tactics, right? You have to remember the sporting purpose test, not that long ago, 40 years ago, all of these different journalists came together and sat down with the government to be like, okay, what are the guns that are actually, people actually use for sporting? And what did we come to? Well, there were three categories of guns, really, that got the nod from all of these gun industry professionals and the government. And one was sporting shotguns. And so we're talking about things with relatively low capacity. They didn't care if they were semi-auto or not, but they had chokes and they were for shooting things that are flying. Two was low capacity center fire hunting rifles. And, that's how we wound up getting guns bojangled into this position, is because they were targeting things that are specifically, your deer rifles, etc. And then finally, unrelated to the other two, very interestingly, target pistols. I struggle, even knowing what I know about the situation as it was back then, to justify why it was just those disciplines. And I guess it's probably that those were the ones that, well, the hunting rifles, it's, well, everyone's uncle the hunts, right? And the other two, well, those are the ones that are at the Olympics, right? Yep. So that's what we wound up with. It was your uncle who hunts and the ones at the Olympics. That's the guns that are protected, which is so hilariously backwards now. But right. It's still the situation. It's still where we're at.
I guess as a little footnote on that thought, there's a Senate bill, and I don't remember the number, and frankly, I don't think it's going to get a vote because nothing good ever happens. But there's a Senate bill that's seeking to reform the import considerations as far as what a sporting purpose is, and it tries to be sneaky about it. But what it's trying to do is make it so that guns that you would shoot at human-shaped silhouette targets in a competition is a sporting purpose, and guns that are similarly configured to guns that are already okay to import can be imported as it is. So, okay, we all understand that sort of an AR-15 then in a non-sporting configuration, in a base configuration, could be imported, or an HK-416 or what have you. Without having to prove to the ATF that your gun's identical, you just have to say that, okay, well, my 416 is just like an AR-15 I could import. I can just import it then, right? And ATF is supposed to then approve them. So this would massively improve the way that import process currently works. The only question is will this bill get a vote? Probably not, and then let alone pass. I strongly doubt that it will. But certainly that sort of import reform would be fantastic to see, because what was a sporting purpose 60 years ago, 70 years ago, whenever that language was really first played with, is just wildly different from what we have today. Because if you remember, right, gun magazines way back in 1968 would talk about how military surplus firearms are unsafe. Right? It's unsafe if you just get a Mauser 98 from Inner Arms, a surplus rifle that didn't even get shot much in the war. It could be unsafe. 8mm Mauser, it could be unsafe. The ammo you find, it could be unsafe. You need to get that beauty rechambered for 30-06 and get a custom stock for it.
Yeah,
right. This was the public conception of an acceptable rifle to own is a Mauser 98, sure, in a custom stock and rebarreled for 30-06.
Yeah, so that way, as long as you fix it so it's safe and it's no longer a liability.
Just have some guy that hopefully has a headspace gauge put a new barrel in it, and that's safe.
Yeah. That's we did find, and I don't know if I've ever showed them, but we were combing through a bunch of shotgun news articles, and we found an article about turn that liability into a an asset. Yeah. And it was a Mauser 98. It's like, oh my God, I hate you so much. But yeah, so this is all very deeply related.
Off topic because I will say, like, all I'm doing is drawing the parallel that we're now conceding again that it's enforcement and not a tax thing, because the ATF exists because it was all the unpopular stuff that nobody wanted to do from the other agencies.
Yeah, it was the junior varsity squad of IRS.
Like the IRS was just like, we keep getting shot at over this. Could we not do this?
They literally were like, we just got through all of this booze stuff. It hurt. We're not doing this anymore. And they found all of the most maniacal people who were like, do you want to do stuff everyone hates? And the guys who like started, pumping their fists, they put them into a new agency, which was, I think at the beginning, AATD or
ATTD, I think.
yeah. They've had like so many different acronyms in a very short period of time. But anyway, let's move on. We need
it's just a sensible list to alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Those are all things that are related to each other.
At least the explosives part, like, makes sense, but like the rest, oh my God. You're going, what okay, why are these together? And the answer is, well, they're all deeply unpopular for us to regulate, so we put them in this one team so that they stop spitting on our regular guys.
Yeah, I didn't know how to do that. Well, you know what I do want to do? I want to talk about Traditional Arms, zero compromise holsters and gear. This is traditionalarms.com, guys, newest supporter of the show. You got to check them out. These are super high quality holsters. This is what I carry. And they're made by a good friend of ours, Gino, in Florida. And the wing on their standard model was designed by me. So why don't you check them out? Give it a go. They've got a lot of different models and customizable, different little patterns and all kinds of little things. Give the website a check out, traditionalarms.com, and you can use promotional code FUDBusters or Ratman while you're ordering. Figure out whatever it is you want to do with that information.
How much compromise went into that design?
So I'm reading the terms of service. It says 0. So, but you be the judge.
Right. Like if this was marriage counseling, these holsters would fail right out.
Or it would be entitled to the rare $500 divorce. If there's just nothing to disagree with.
Like if these holsters for your dad do not come out, it's not going to
go. The volume only goes one way. But yeah, so next up, so another thing that seemed good. So there was this ancient lizard that had been at the ATF for a long time, Marvin Richardson, who was the acting director for a good while as well. And he just got removed. And this is thanks to John Crump, brought us this news. But yeah, leak reveals Deputy Marvin Richardson, which is a human name, has been forced out at ATF. Longtime Bureau of ATF Deputy Director Marvin Richardson has been dismissed from his post after being forced to retire. His other option was to be forcibly removed from his position.
With the catapult, I've heard there's a catapult they use for that.
That's what I heard too.
Did they say why they got rid of him?
Let me keep reading. Richardson served in the ATF for decades under multiple presidents. Previously, he was acting director from 21 to 22. Was the driving force behind the ATF's war on pistol braces and privately manufactured firearms. In 2020, AmmoLand met with the Biden transition team without the knowledge of President Trump to discuss the ATF's focus. Mr. Richardson was particularly interested in going after pistol braces, which, I mean, is all true. During Richardson's reign, the ATF was a political tool instead of a law enforcement regulatory agency. So, short answer, no, it does not say why. But I can imagine that it had something to do with the fact that as Trump was leaving office, he was secretly meeting with Biden.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I mean, I feel like Trump would remember that, or at least somebody who Trump hired to remember stuff like that would have remembered it. So that's a thing. And then additionally, so again, now we're talking about good stuff. This is the ATF press release, April 7th. Repeal 8 FFL inspection policy and begin review of 2 final rules. And the 2 final rules they're talking about reviewing, they're going to begin reviewing now on April 7th. That's okay. Are the engaged in the business rule, which threatens to tell you need a license for selling too many guns on Gunbroker, and then arresting you so that you can't have a license ever. That's a good one. And then also the pistol brace rule. Note that they have expressed no interest in reviewing the framer receiver rule because nothing good can ever happen in the world. Yeah, we have a bunch of platitudes. So again, this is pretty a good look, right? Press release. We're gonna stop with this business of zero tolerance. We're gonna stop being so mean to our gun boys, right?
There's no way that they would immediately renege on that.
No, there's no way.
I'm not even gonna guess anymore.
Yeah. So what can we learn from Taylor Tarantano's case? Is so it's DC Metropolitan Police working directly with DOJ. They've charged him. He had a CZ Scorpion with a brace in CZ configuration, and they've charged him with an illegal SBR as well as. This is great. And remember, DOJ is involved with this. He was indicted for count 1, possessed a firearm, namely a Scorpion CZ short-barreled rifle that is not registered to him in the National Firearms Registration and Transfer Record. Count 2, not in his home, possessed a pistol, Scorpion CZ pistol, without a license issued pursuant to DC law.
Oh, so it's both.
It's both.
Yeah. It's an SPR and a pistol at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And yeah, so and people have made a big fuss about this. They're saying, oh yeah, GOA has asked the DOJ to drop the charges. Fucking okay.
They should try that more often. Just
I'll ask that too.
Hey, it's cool.
Here, watch. Here, let me try this. Hey, everybody, let's do it. Everybody, let's do it. DOJ, please drop this charge.
Stop now.
Matthias?
I demand it, actually.
Yeah, dude, please send us $5.25 or even $150 so we can do this again. Yeah, no, I noticed they didn't. Anyway, that shit pisses me off so bad. But yeah, this is outrageous. I like how they gave photo credit. This is kind of pithy on the Firearm blog. They gave photo credit to DC Metropolitan Police.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. But yeah, so we have a nice and consistent.
What is that exact photo of, by the way?
It's I guess that's allegedly him with his little gun and his little.
Where was he?
I think that picture may have been from the thing that made him so he was on their radar in the first place, because I think he took an impromptu tour of the Capitol in early January.
Oh, is that what that's from?
Maybe.
But he was one of quote unquote those people.
I was enjoying the other guy in the corner. Did you see the other guy in the corner in that photo?
The old man or the
yeah, I was like, what is he carrying? It was.
Yeah, it's like, is that a Sten? What is that?
What is that?
I don't know.
I can't figure it out.
It's pixels.
That's it. That's all I had.
Yeah. It's been. I remember reading about this case back whenever it was a Biden thing, and I seem to remember he was one such a defendant, and then while waiting for the outcome of that, was caught with his braced Scorpion.
Right.
I seem to remember that being the case, but then that creates that whole other kerfuffle.
Right. Yeah. So that's brilliant. And then, of course, also the DOJ has been, they were quiet for a minute after the transition, and then they just went like right back to business as usual, filing like insane things and a lot of the criminal cases that we've got pending. Like we talked about what they did in Adamiak. It's all very, it's Trump's DOJ is consistent with all of the previous DOJs in their inconsistency. So I think that's news. Speaking of consistency, would you like consistent quality that doesn't want to violently harm you and separate you from your family? Go to MAF Corporation. That's maf-arms.com. And that's a Florida company that wants you to have a nice time. So check it out. MAF Corp's got all the greatest deals, all of the greatest items, all of the greatest merchandise, and you can get a discount. Use promotional code FUDBusters or RATMAN. Check it out. There's very inexpensive items available and good value for the locking block and other things. So check it out. There's also trash for sale. The price of the trash has gone down yet again. We are reaching emergency levels of $2.99 for a trash piece. So purchase your investment. You know, you can take your liability of a money and transform it into an asset. Purchase trash today.
Spend your entire tax refund on trash.
For every piece of trash that Matt at MAF, they've guaranteed they will personally request that the DOJ drop charges on one gun crime for every piece of trash sold. They're gonna scream it into their pillow.
Extra hard.
Yeah. Without biting. So.
This admin is brought a lot of excitement for a lot of people.
They're being gay.
I do not understand what they're doing for the Second Amendment. There's no sign, at least that I've seen, of anybody doing anything that makes any sense revolving around guns. Did I miss something? Did I miss a big move? Because
they wrote a press release. Second Amendment is not second class anymore.
Do you think there's anybody in this admin that even understands firearms? Like, really?
That one guy.
Okay.
What's his name? He's like 8th in command.
ATF's new general counsel or whatever.
Yeah.
Seems like he's pretty all right. But
does he?
Yeah, he seems okay. I wonder if he's currently being waterboarded for like saying no.
My problem is, we started this episode with like saying, "Hey, how do you have this like tax loophole that then became a ban?" Right.
Right.
And that's probably that's got to be the biggest, most glaring thing that stands out, because it's again the guy that got charged with a pistol versus the SBR. It is exactly the it's exactly the same sort of, you can't have it both ways bullshit. We're all commanded by it, and a lot of stuff comes from that. So do we have anyone who has said anything remotely like, hey, how can these both coexist from an administrative standpoint? Like,
no, in the so we have, hold on, I got it right here.
Because that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone that speaks remotely the language we're talking about, which is the sort of the fact that it is a right and that it has been curtailed in these very strange ways.
The Department of Justice believed that the Second Amendment is not a second-class right, said U.S. Attorney General Pamela Bondi.
And that's why I will send my employees to put you in jail if you do attempt to exercise that right, actually.
Yeah. Or if you purchase a firearm that is not complete and you dare to complete that firearm without a license.
Or if it's too long, or if it's too short, or if it's the wrong way, or there's too many pieces in the box.
Or
all I'm saying is I'm waiting for someone that seems to understand the situation at all to even appear on the stage. Like, whether or not somebody advocates for us verbally in press releases or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people that want to ingratiate themselves to the Second Amendment movement. Somebody please wake me up when someone appears on the stage that seems to understand, even for a moment, what the hell we're talking about.
I think there's bits and pieces to be found for the more popular, and I don't mean popular for the gun community. I think I mean popular for sort of the GOP voting crowd at large. And that's primarily carry. Although I think the way that they're going to have to deal with that is through Congress anyway. And we had 2 carry bills, and I think only one of them got a vote, but it did get out of committee. But it's national it's like national reciprocity, but by forcing states to honor the state.
It's insane.
It issues the license that a guy comes from. It's got massive 10th Amendment problems, but I guess that's what's being done there, which is to say not very much, but that's really like the big motivating things that Trump talked about. Oh, these are my Second Amendment priorities, right? Was constitutional carry is the one that he even talked about since his previous presidency. And I think all he otherwise talked about was getting rid of the bad stuff that everybody said that Biden did. And so really that comes in, I mean, it was 4 things, but they're really only going to try and get rid of the 3 of them that they talk about in this press release. And I wouldn't be, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, gift horse in the mouse. It is good that we are getting this, but certainly a truly pro 2A or administration could do more. And I have a hard time believing that there isn't more than this, right? Because Don Jr.'s son owns or works in a gun industry magazine that talks all about suppressors being good. It's certainly bizarre that we at the very least we don't have that Obama era rule that suppressor parts are suppressors get walked back, because that was just invented out of nowhere. The ATF just decided one day that's how that works. That could be done away with and would help people who own suppressors if for instance, they wanted to repair them or take care of them or recore or redo a suppressor that's white based. So there's certainly more stuff that could be done there. And there are certainly people who understand or are sensitive to these issues. It's just a matter of whether or not they're actually going to do it.
Yeah.
I want somebody that I can put a name to be like, that guy, I want that guy, or woman, I don't care. But I just can't seem to find a public figure that seems to know even they talk about these things in fits and spurts, but not as a core right and not as an abuse of
the prevailing public policy is doing nothing.
It's so ad hoc. I mean, even when it's in our favor, it's ad hoc. This is very strange.
You want a really good shit take? You want a good shit take that I think is good, but I understand is for most people it's going to be a shit take?
What?
This is why Brandon Herrera's ATF director would have been really good. Because I'm not saying he understands enough about the policy things or any of this, right? I'm not saying that. But what he is spastic or autistic or however you want to say it, in the way that the fanatical gun owning community is, where he might not understand how to get from A to B to C,
but he would know where C was.
He's not going to shut the fuck up until the people that do know how to do A to B to C are doing it, and he will fire people until it gets there. Because otherwise, right? If it seems for now that Pam Bondi is the one steering the ship, gotta be honest with you, she does not strike me as a gun-owning fanatic type.
Yeah, the thing is that we know somebody that has the fanaticism and the capability. It's just that you can't garner celebrity that way.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Mochaccino, man. Mocha beard kissy friend of mine.
No, I hate the government.
I know, which is why you should absolutely be in that position. It would make me laugh so hard. No. Like, everybody jokes on this side. It's like, hey, we need like a Ron Swanson, someone that would work there but hate it. And I'm like, yeah, I know a guy like that.
Did you remember what happened when there's already been a concentrated effort to make the Republicans disown me?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Lest we forget that the defense
doesn't know. Matt was holding. What was that? A congressional hearing?
Yes, there was a congressional hearing. Go on. All right, go on.
Matt was holding a congressional hearing, and they printed out a giant card, like with a stupid. By the way, I don't know why Congress does this, but they have to have the giant card printer, and they print out like the big Publishers Clearinghouse check version of a tweet of his that just says "ahem, fuck cops." And they're like, what did you mean by this? And you're like, well, a friend of mine had just been summarily executed by police officers, so I was mad at them at the time. And my favorite part is this is, by the way, this is the side that is supposed to like be like the whole like ACAB movement. You know what I mean? Like, they had,
it's like he didn't look at the date. It was the like.
I think Tyrell Brooks, I think, was his name, but he was the one that
hit Nichols.
Like they tried to handcuff him, and then they pepper sprayed him while he was complying with the handcuffing, and so he got up and ran. And they caught him later, and then got the handcuffs on him, and then proceeded to kick and hit him over the span of like 15 minutes until they were like pretty clear he was not conscious, and then continued to wail on him.
Yeah,
and so
it was Tyree Nichols, and it was right. In Memphis. Yeah, and that was the night the video was released. And so I had watched the whole video where you can see them beat this man until his bones are exposed. And like, he's just kind of gurgling, and they continue to beat him. And so could you imagine the defense lawyer would have something critical to say about our brothers in blue? I don't know, but But me being frank, like, I was the only actual firearms expert they had brought. They succeeded in completely preventing any of the Republicans from talking to me.
I really love it. I was like, hey, bro, man, why are you mad at cops? And you're like, this was your marketing tool like last year. Like, this is exactly what you were going for.
Yeah, it's what was funny is him specifically. It's like on his Twitter, he was getting roasted by his own constituents. He was like, "What?" They were like, "Why are you grilling that man? He's right." But and they were like, "Do you not remember that day?" It was great. But yeah, so no, I don't think I'm allowed to be in the federal government because of that.
No, there's plenty of dumber things out there to keep you, and they still hire people. Trust me. We are condemned.
Who's going to sue them? Who's going to bring a big smart sue?
You are. The call is coming from the inside. I'm suing my own agency.
Broken Arrow.
Like, I mean, to be fair, you could, and I try to explain this to some people. It's like, you don't understand. It's not that you can just go into the ATF and tear it apart from the inside by just ripping out the wires. Like, people really think. People don't understand bureaucracy, right? But someone like Matt would be a good person to put there, because he's like, I know what we're going to do. We're going to go sue this guy in a way that makes no sense. Oh no, this case law got decided against us. Like, it's just going to go in and swing on. Like, the worst part is, like, you know what would happen if Matt became ATF like director? Everybody would hate him. They would think that he was an enemy of the Second Amendment for the entire time he was there, because he would constantly be opening cases that were so bat-faced and like they're unbelievably insane. And everyone would be like, why is he doing this? And then they'd be like, ha ha ha, he lost in court again. I hate that guy. I hope he keeps losing. And the whole time they're not going to realize, like, he's losing. That's the point.
I'm arguing this when I keep going in. There's spaghetti coming out of It's like, it would be the inverse of that one Boston Legal episode where they there's Shatner gets into a defensive shooting, and he's like, oh no, we have to overturn this gun law, because he got arrested for
right.
pulling his gun or whatever, and they're like, we have to overturn this gun law, so we have to lose at the trial court. So they had their peon come in, and he just gave this whole thing where he's like, the Second Amendment, and of course this is way before Bruin, of a militia. That's one guy, right? Just like when gave this whole thing about how the Second Amendment is worthless, and then they come back and the jury fines for him. They're just like, yeah, the opposite of that.
I'm so pro Second Amendment. I don't think the National Guard should be national.
I mean, so that is actually
don't do it. Don't do it. You'll be gone for hours. I've accidentally fed Matt. Look at him.
Oh no, because there was this guy I met. He was really cool, and he had this idea. Like, he was okay. It was at like a legal conference, and so this was like top nerd bullshit. But this guy had written an article called "The Anti-Militia Reading of the Second Amendment." And if you like go back to the founding era and to what the drafters were saying about militias, you would basically, his idea was, the way you need to read it is that because the militias are, essential, individuals have to be armed as a safeguard against the militias. And I was just like, whoa. and because there was a concern that these were already becoming nationalized, right?
Right.
And that was hilariously problematic. And so we needed to have state forces as well as individual local militias as checks and balances in the
to be fair, that's fairly predictive, because it's like, okay, you have this National Guard, and then you have a state of emergency. What do? Run around disarming everybody. Why the hell would you do that?
Who would stop them from doing this? Perhaps the Florida boys.
What do you need a gun for? Well, what if there's an emergency? Well, that's what the National Guard's for. Exactly. Who do you think I'm going to be shooting at?
They're going to come take your guns. So, but that reading, I don't know, when in the context, the reading that because we need to deal with the embarrassment of these organized militias, we need to have a hedge. The right of the people has to be protected. And I was just like, like this brain blast mode. I don't know, what do you think of that reading? I love it.
We have to have some sort of, because they didn't have a standing army, so it's like we have to have some sort of armed forces. So then the people must also have armed forces. They really should have written.
Just go through this, by the way. Couldn't possibly be informed by having people. I
like how they wrote it. They wrote it so open because they're like, nobody will. If we write it this way, then they can't get into nuance and try to take apart what we meant. No, you wrote it so ambiguously that now we all argue about what the hell you meant. And by the way, the last sentence doesn't count for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah. No, and also arms. When you use the single most inclusive term for weaponry, it must mean that you didn't mean to include magazines or assault guns, right?
Or ones that have too many or are too large or are too round or are too soft.
By the way, the National Guard thing, look at what happened in North Carolina. It was getting pretty heated there for a minute. People were not happy.
Yeah, some silly goose behavior. But, the militia should certainly not be federal. It makes no sense. But whatever.
What are you talking about?
Somebody in the comments, tell me why. Why? Why do we have a National Guard?
I mean, we could trace out where it evolved from, but...
Evolved? Is that the word you're going to use?
Well, the problem is we see this in other ways, too, not necessarily the National Guard, but look at the election of senators and stuff like that, too. We really decommissioned...
Yeah, we just ignore those.
State government doesn't mean anything anymore, Yeah. It's like, what do you do? Hire police and fill in potholes or something, It's just...
literally, everybody thinks that the federal government is the primary accountable actor when
you're supposed to be the thing that keeps the states from warring with each other. That's really all you're supposed to do.
Montgomery County, Maryland has a budget in the billions of dollars, and what do? Masturbate and harass their own people.
Okay, that's a little. I don't know anything about that, but go ahead.
The harassing part is demonstrable.
I'm out of date on that one. Anyway, do you have another topic because this show's off the rails?
I am not a big fan of the government. So, let's talk about state governments. You're saying they're not doing anything. I'm saying somehow, even in our modern idea of the infant state government, the infant baby little county government of the group of people larger than Germany, they're still doing too much.
Well, it's a one-way filter. States are allowed to take away more rights. That they're not allowed to do anything to help you.
No, that would be ridiculous. States move to ban online gun plans and instructions. You know what? And you know what I have to say to this? It's about damn time. About damn time. That pesky information has been a pest.
It's shooting up our streets.
It's shooting all the jobs. So yeah, proving that some folks aren't sure how the internet works, several states are striving to make it harder to make firearms and firearm components privately. Recent news from who's the suspects?
Yeah, who could guess 3 states?
California, New Jersey, and New York. Blue state prosecutors and lawmakers are making an extra effort to curb the availability of digital gun plans and devices that can help legally produce home-built guns, which are allowed under federal law. New Jersey has A4975, 5026 on party lines, makes it a crime to possess digital instructions to manufacture guns and gun components. Under this proposal, somebody who is not licensed to manufacture firearms but possesses any digital firearm instructions is guilty of a 4th-degree felony, which is punishable by up to 18 months and a fine of up to $10,000. In New York, the DA has penned a letter to Creality, ni hao, 3D printer maker who doesn't give a shit what you have to say, to urge the company to do more to block its machines from having the capability to make gun components.
How the hell would that even work?
Yeah, I'm sure
I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm sure Creality's like, yeah, okay, man, yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, yeah, buy more or whatever. Further, Bragg wants Creality to police its cloud community for such CAD files. Let's see it. We have an aggressive and holistic approach to combating gun violence alongside our law enforcement partners, but we can't do it alone. That's why we need the Chinese companies to help us. We're hopeful we can partner with these companies and make a meaningful impact on our public safety. At the same time, California ruled in favor of San Diego County, which granted a preliminary injunction against Defense Distributed, barring the Texas-based company from selling its Ghost Gunner desktop 3D milling machine in the state. So this is an interesting one because the state has a ban on CNC machines that are designed to just produce gun stuff. And it was pretty much targeted at the Ghost Gunner. And so what the company did is a totally different company, totally not Defense Distributed, totally doesn't have the same people, controlling it, created a different machine called the Coast Runner, which is completely different in that it has a jazz paint theme on it, and began intensely selling it and advertising it into the state of California in violation of the California law specifically targeting it. I think it's bullshit. I think it's a stupid law, partly because why would you bother trying to regulate one of the least efficient mechanisms of making firearms at all? A $3,000 screaming drone engine. But anyway,
no, it sounds fine. This is the best way to produce firearms.
Yeah,
1,000th at a time.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
The San Diego Superior Court Judge Lauren Freestone claimed in his ruling, ooh, tough name, buddy, there was no freewheeling historical right to manufacture one's own firearms.
Wait, what?
Freewheeling?
What is that? No, what is a? He's right. There are no freewheeling rights that just wander out in the streets. Right?
Yeah, freewheeling is doing an awful lot of invention here.
Freewheeling is carrying that sentence and doing a lot of work.
Yeah, if you have a free balling right.
Certainly you had a right to make guns, but not a freewheeling right. And that means it makes me unhappy when you do it.
It's a very constrained reeling right.
An orthogonally wheeling right.
So,
by the way, this is all just coming because of 80% and stuff like that. Nobody gave a crap until it was easy to make it, right? Quote unquote, by the way, because it was always easy to make certain things.
Yeah, and people have always been doing it. Well, no, people haven't always been doing it. People started doing it when you made it annoying to just get the thing they wanted.
It seems like how do I put this? It's almost like they're afraid of the computer aspect of it more than anything else. Because all the old Paladin press books and stuff about how to weld up submachine guns and stuff like that, I mean, a lot of stuff's out on the archive, but most people had those, not most, but a good majority of people had those skills at that time to be able to knock out a terrible homemade firearm.
Right.
In probably about the same amount of time it would take to familiarize yourself with a system like this, get it installed, get it set up. Let's say it's a printing thing, figuring out your layers and what material you're using and humidity and blah, 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 blah. They don't think about the fine tuning that goes into this.
They also don't think about the fact that we've scaled. Like, I don't think that the ability to make a gun yourself has gotten easier beyond the normal scaling of technology, right? Like, it's easier now in the same way it's easier to, go to the bathroom without dying horribly, right? There hasn't been a quantum leap in gun making technology. Like you said, there's certain skills that you have to hone. And I'd say, do you get what I'm saying? It's proportional still to what it was before.
I think,
I agree.
I think for these blue states, there's an interesting analog in voting where it's never been easier to register to vote in any place in the country than it is now. In these states, these states will laud that, right? That's worthy of celebration. That's great. That's awesome because that's a right they feel like that they can use to their advantage or that they approve. All right, it's an approved first class right. Likewise with speech, right? It has never been so easy to have your voice out there and heard. For the most part, not all blue states, but some. The majority of states in the union, let's say, celebrate that fact. That's a good thing, right? That's our democracy or whatever. Until you say something they don't like, but when it comes to guns, you suddenly have this very interesting divide where it's like, okay, for the first time since maybe the Gun Control Act, the needle moved slightly the other direction, right? It became slightly easier for someone to exercise their rights. And these states will have a pants and shitification moment about it, right? To them, this is horrible. The ratchet can only move one way. It can only ever be harder for someone to exercise this right in order for it to still be a right, which is just bizarre. But you see them have this this visceral reaction where everything about this is bad, but only because it's easier, and it's not necessarily easier in like a radical, the world's completely changed way. It's like the same way everything's got easier. Like you used to have a horse to go to the next town over. It's not so much the case now.
Automatic transmissions weren't standard equipment until like the 80s, right? 70s, depending on where you are.
I don't even think it's that much easier, realistically. If you sold a jig kit and the materials, all somebody would have to do is know how to.
I'm glad you said this because it's heavily documented. We have a lot of historical sources that show us that people in the founding era, their neighborhoods were full of gunsmiths. In fact, there's an article that I wrote in where we cover this. I forgot where. Tons of gunsmiths, and what they would do, Americans. So apparently, American gun owners were always cheap fucks. So they would just order the hard parts imported from Europe. So they would get just the lock work, and then they would fashion their own barrel and stock.
Oh yeah, that's how Remington got started, was just being a barrel maker in the U.S. when it was hard to get barrels in the U.S.
Yeah, and so that was, tell me that's harder than carving out 80s. It's the same thing. It's literally identical.
No, we really, the funny thing is how much more modular firearms were even before interchangeable parts, because people would just hand fit and hand fit and hand fit.
Yeah, no, modularity, it's an inverse bell curve, right? There's hand fit parts, extremely modular because you can fit it. And then there's computer machine parts.
Yeah, I've got a file. Like, that's how it works.
I can do too big. Too small is hard. But yeah. Anyway, next up, Mel Gibson, he's going to get the right to own the gun restored by Justice Department in this hilariously poorly worded article that doesn't disclose how specifically they're doing it, referring vaguely to pardon powers and the fact that it's because of his personal relationship to the president.
So wait, how did he lose his gun rights?
He was convicted of domestic violence.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The article that I had read about this explained, I think, a little better that one of Trump's actions he had Pam Bondi do was to establish a rights restoration division of DOJ. And I don't know that it's specifically about gun rights, but it seems like gun rights is a big part of it. And for the pilot program, they were supposed to find 10 individuals with a sympathetic case or whatever, and then give them their gun rights back. And that the ATF previously had the power delegated to it to oversee the rights restoration process at the federal level. And that since having that delegated to them, they've just decided that they don't do it, right? That they don't have to do it.
Well, no, they were. So the appropriations writer since 1992 is like $0 was attributed to it.
Right.
So it just hasn't been funded for as long as I've been alive.
And this effort with the DOJ seeks to snatch that away from ATF, and that they're going to be handling it now. And that there was 10 trial people, but Mel Gibson decided that he should be an 11th trial person or whatever, in that because he's got political connections, he was somehow added to that. And then there was much kvetching from the reactionaries, right? The blue reactionaries to this, where it's like, well, Mel Gibson's a really bad guy, and he shouldn't get his gun right. Is this really what the government's priority is and the really bad guys get their guns? And it was all very tiring because I don't care about celebrity drama.
They're not people. Right. Speaking of whatever the fuck we're talking about,
Mel Gibson.
Yeah. Adolf Gibbler.
Yeah.
We
already went over this. I gave you the methods for this. It's Adolf, and when that plan fails, you go to Beadolf Kickler. And then if that plan fails, you go to Seedolf Smackler.
All right, hold on. No, so speaking of there's something that Mel Gibson has in common with one of our friends.
Oh, is it Dedolf Puntler?
So how do we get all the way to I? But anyway, it is our friend Iraq veteran 8888.
Dale Earnhardt's.
He has announced on the Twitter Bird app that effective immediately, he is no longer a gun owner of America. No longer affiliated with @gunowners, which, okay. There are some, you got to knock off the anti-Semitism, man. I used to love your content, but lately you've been going off the deep end. Blanket statements about a group of people, any group of people, is poor form, to which he responds,
what the fuck is funny no meme?
Yeah. So I wonder.
What was the anti-Semitic comment?
He's been doing.
There was a large slew of. I don't know if you're familiar with this. This is potentially too terminally online for you, but the noticing posting, where it's like you say you write prejudices as though it's something that you just noticed and that you keep seeing it, and it's like, wow. And it's like, with my biases just keep getting confirmed. I don't want to believe it, but it just seems like it's true now.
Right.
And so you just keep doing that until you just come right out and say it's like, you hate this group of people actually.
So
but it's only because you keep noticing and nobody can explain it to you. And so that's.
Are you telling me that somebody noticed that he was noticing?
Yeah.
Yes. It seems like gun owners noticed he was noticing, and then he lost that gig. So.
It's so funny. Like, it's become an internet meme at this point, so you never know when somebody's actually means it or not half the time. Well, that was a good T-shirt.
Yeah, I just hope everyone's having a nice time.
I love Eric. Eric has had so many hot takes. I guess this one just finally riled somebody, but he has said Eric has gone through every shade of the guy at the gun show.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if you know how you go through the gun show and there's a bunch of different personalities at the gun show, Eric's probably been all of them at one point or another. Or at least he's going to do the complete circuit. Like, he's going to be every guy at the gun show before he's done. So I don't even know what's going on. Like, but I wish I knew what was the actual statement was so that I could like.
I mean, it was like you can look at his Twitter bird app. He's saying all the.
I'm really bad at Twitter. I'm really bad at it.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm gonna be real with you.
I hate the GUI on Twitter.
I'm gonna be real with you. I don't want to watch all this, so I don't actually know what he said either. I just thought it was funny. So
to be fair, you don't like GUI anyway, so you're fine, right?
oh, fuck him. If anything, without endorsing whatever Eric said, because I do not know. Eric, I like you more now.
For not working with GOA.
For not working with GOA.
That's fair.
Real ID is a terrible idea. Okay.
I mean, I agree. Real ID is a terrible idea.
He's saying a lot. Like, he's also, I noticed he's also saying, like,
Real ID is just them trying to go to digital ID. I mean, that's all. It's clearly that's all they're doing.
Not today, Satan. I've also noticed him doing more like religious posting, and he used to be like a militant atheist. Yeah. So I'm not sure what happened there. I mean, if he has switched to believing, that's awesome. I support that. If it's part of some kind of act that upsets me,
I highly doubt Eric does anything insincerely, or at least from his own perspective. I've never known him to be insincere.
No, I don't think he has that in him.
In that moment. The question is, like, what does he think a week from now? Yeah. Like, he's a man that, like, what if there was a man who, like, you know, they say you can only pay attention to 7 things at once or whatever?
Huh?
You can only really know 7 things at one time.
What?
A statement.
Huh?
No.
I can do one.
Yeah, okay. But the idea is, like, if you try to carry more than 7 things, when I was younger, they used to say you can't carry more than 7 things in your head at a time. And I think with the introduction of the smartphone, that number's gone down. But imagine if it's like, what if you expanded that for like a week at a time instead of just in a moment? And I feel like what if you have a dude that can only know 7 things at a time, and then you just pour the entire universe through his ears? What combinations would you get? That's probably the closest I could get to like trying to understand what he is focused on at any given moment. Yeah. And I love him to death, but I never am quite sure what he's focused on at any given moment.
Yeah. I like him too. His eye contact is really weird, probably because he's doing that processing in real time.
Oh, I don't know. He's always been extremely sweet and genuine to me. Like,
he is. But when he looks at
I don't have a bump right here, so like.
Yeah. Well, it goes right. Do you know what I'm talking about? When he looks at you in the eye, it goes right. Like,
you can watch him lose focus. Like, I've been in a conversation with him and watched him get bored of his own sentence.
That's good. Speaking of which, guys, FFLpaymentprocessing.com. You are leaving money on the table if you're not using this company. Idiot. Stupid shit. You haven't been using FFLpaymentprocessing.com? What's wrong with you? You haven't turned on your local gun shop to FFLpaymentprocessing.com? Stupid. Idiot. I guess you just want to get your processing snatched away, you dumb.
I noticed that too many FFLs do this, and based on my noticing, I think they're all stupid.
Oh, I need you to pull your stocks in Ivan the Troll right now.
These payment processors, are they often owned by people with names that end in birth?
Moving on, let's just talk about a renowned Florida gun maker in the great state of Florida, SCCY.
What's his last name?
All right, let's all take turns arguing about how that's pronounced, because I think it's Sicky.
I'm going to say Sky.
Sicky. It's the Sicky Blicky.
What if it's not? What if it's like, okay, imagine that it's a graphic. So it's actually just 2 O's. Actually, it looks like 2 little butt cheeks. So it's just soy.
Let's take a look at this place. Wow.
Why are we looking at it? We're just okay for the audio listeners. He's just doing Google Maps.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at this very nondescript building.
That's what it always is.
It's
Yeah.
the Sicky headquarters.
That's
Anyway,
Sicky's.
what's going on?
Sicky's sick. So yeah, anyway, notice of pending levy and seizure warning: do not remove. Basically, they have a $250,000 tax lien from Volusia County,
Crap.
and 5 days ago, this is on a review. Went to drop a gun off to get repaired that won't fire. I live about an hour away. The parking lot was empty, and this sticker is on entry and every entrance. So much for lifetime warranty.
Damn, where am I going to get Tiffany blue pistols now?
I'm glad I already got mine.
The taxman better not try and come and knock down that door because there's like a 30% chance that somebody in there has a working gun.
So wait, the county is after them? Or is it just the county enforcing? Like, I wonder who's actually after them.
Well, it's probably a tax lien. Well, actually, no. With that kind of money, it would be kind of weird for it to like just be tax stuff.
That's what I'm saying. It's weird, right?
All equipment, furniture, fixtures located inside this location, regardless of status, owned, leased, loaned, or borrowed, are subject to taxation and are now under a pending levy and seizure for unpaid tangible personal property taxes. Disposal of assessed property prior to satisfaction of the tax lien is a violation of Florida statute, Chapter 618, and is punishable by 1 year imprisonment and a $1,000
Maybe they're
fine.
writing a bunch of personal stuff off in the business and somebody figured it out and then they just went after him for that.
So that's could be use tax.
Maybe.
I don't know.
So
That's weird.
SECY just disappeared. There's no statement by them or anything.
It doesn't seem that way. And there was people. So before this got posted, people were like, there was like rumblings online that like their gun had been. They sent their gun in. Apparently, people send SCCIs in a lot. Sickies, suies. And they're saying they're had my guns forever, and they're not answering the phone. Let's go on their website. They're committed to safety and community support. It's do they have a Twitter? Just start saying quit and fired because those are words too. That's pretty good.
There? No, that's not it. Oh, there you go.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
that's what it shut down.
Twitter.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Oh, no, it's over.
That's not good. Let's check the Facebook.
oh, check his Facebook messages. Read your messages
No.
on the stream. I'm clicking it. It's not working.
I love my
Which one?
Sicky.
Well, hold on.
Oh, here we go. This is a group, fan group. Another confirmation SCCY is gone. They no longer have an FFL license.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah. Maybe Taurus will buy them out.
Wow. Okay.
Not good. There's cope here. They're not but out of business.
I like the dead air. This is a good model for podcasting.
I'll fix it later. All right. So yeah, let's read this article. The Taxman Cometh. Seems only appropriate this piece hits on tax day, April 15th. Firearm company owned by Joe Roebuck has finally come to the end of the line. Last year, Roebuck disputed my reporting on issues facing the company. The issues ranged from mass layoffs to a variety of tax issues. His case was convincing enough that I actually felt it necessary to correct the initial report. Today, however, it seems my reporting might have been premature or prescient, but it was, even then, far from inaccurate. Since the 11th of March, tax seizure notices have been posted on each entrance to the SCCY facilities in Daytona Beach, Florida. I didn't proceed, but I did contact Revenue Recovery in Volusia County. I didn't expect to be told there are lots of notes on this one. I will need to get the director to speak with you. In the meantime, text, emails, and calls from former Sucky employees have kept coming. Some said the company had actually been closed for months with few people on hand, but no product going out the door. Others wanted to recount horror stories. We don't report secondhand stories. That didn't keep people from sharing them. Here's what we do know. Thanks to the Volusia County Tax Collector's Office, they were posted with a notice of levy and seizure on 3/11. That post was made after the company stopped communicating with the tax collector's office regarding an active payment agreement plan that had been in place for the 2022 tax year. According to Volusia County, they made a January 2025 payment, the first in several months, and that's the last we've heard from this business. We could not reach anyone. So, yeah, basically, they're currently in the awkward position of like arranging the deck chairs on the Titanic before they attach the assets of the company to try to recover. So this is, I doubt it's all, because in Florida and in most states, your state taxes are collected through the county tax collector. And so they were obviously up to some silly goose business, partly because Florida is a great state in terms of business taxes. If we have like very, very few of them.
Yeah, I was going to say.
like hilariously few. So I feel like you kind of have to be getting up to some silly goose behavior to have this be what undoes you. Of course, that's like, this is probably one, little symptom of something much deeper going on. And we probably will never find out about it. But here's the question. Is this sad?
I think it's sick.
To be fair, I don't really want to see any manufacturer go down as long as people were supportive of the product. They were like a low-cost producer. They did a lot of subcompacts. Certainly, there were people entering the market with it. I don't know that I would necessarily have chosen the product myself, but I don't know enough to condemn them. So I guess the question is, what did they do? Like, how did they end up in this situation? Because the market's pretty slow right now. A lot of the big boys are coming down their prices. Did they really just get run out in terms of not being able to sell enough units? Or did something happen and they played a game and they lost?
I wonder. I do really wonder because
that's a big number. I mean, but it's not an insane number. It's
a big number for like a state tax assessment on a business.
It also is like what was it, like just shy of $250,000 or something like that?
249,932.
You would think that someone that you see SCCYs everywhere, so you would think that they had sales enough to eat up. So not that it wouldn't hurt to a certain degree, but you would think $250,000 would be a solvable problem for them.
That's exactly. And you know what's crazy? I was talking to somebody this week before I saw any of this about this company. I was talking to somebody this week about SCCY, because it's like, well, yeah, even if their margins are low, which I doubt they are because I see how the guns are made, and frankly, they're not made nightmarishly bad. They're just made a little cheap. It's like their margins have to be good because you see them everywhere nationwide. They have to be making great money. And then we pulled the AFMR and we saw that they had put out like an incredible amount of product, at least for 2023. We were literally talking about how this company must be doing pretty good. And then this happens. So I feel like there has to be some kind of silly stuff going on here. Because like either they were razor thin on their margins and that's what happened, or people were playing, funny little number games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be really curious to see. There must be some filing somewhere. We just have it hasn't surfaced yet.
Yeah, I mean, it is something that's interesting enough that I'm sure it will come.
I mean, it's weird that a commonly known gum company just sort of disappeared beneath the waves and nobody noticed. That's bizarre. Without a public statement or anything.
Well, you know who did notice? All of the people on Facebook talking about how they were mailing.
yeah, I can't get my RMA. I guess maybe it mirrors the tonics that way. Like, we have a return rate of like 70%. This is not good.
Oh, was it that bad?
On the Combat Masters and stuff, the return rate was insanely high on Combat Masters.
Did they break?
Yeah, all the time. I've got one that I'm still trying to get. Like, I have a Combat Master, and I took it to the range, and I was like, oh, the screw for the guide rod's backing out, so I'll just go ahead and put some Loctite on that and get it tightened up. Okay, now that's working, so I'll take it back to the range, and it's like, oh, it's not really feeding with this magazine, so I'll go adjust this, that, the other, and it's like, okay, that's fine. And then it's like, oh, it's now that I did that, it's ejecting kind of sluggishly, so I'll go change that. And then I finally got it where I was like, okay, we're good. And I fired like 10, 20 rounds. I was like, all right. It just ran like 20 rounds. No problem. And then the rear sight fell off. It's just like, God, I can't get this gun to run without causing another problem. So I think it's gone on 5 range trips. I finally am just like, what the hell with it? I'll fix it later.
That's cool. Speaking of the hell with it, I'll fix it later. PatriotPatch.co, longest time supporter of the show, guys. You can go on there, use promotional code TWIG10, that's TWIG10. Get some gifts for your friends. Join the Patch of the Month Club. Well, that's a new one. Defending Freeman for 250 years, Army, Navy, Marines. Yeah, I just got in this one of the little bunner, the bunner rabbit. See? It's the Energizer Bunnet. It's made of soft PVC, super high quality. Nice little surprise for you to get. And again, long time supporter of the show. So check them out, guys. PatriotPatch.co. If you want to pick something up, use promotional code FUDBusters. Why not? Get yourself a nice little discount.
That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I'm out of data.
Yeah.
I just fell asleep like 20 minutes ago.
Same.
Yeah, it is 3:52 a.m.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, as we're recording this is what we do because we are normal. And,
so I want to find out, you didn't talk about the new 320 kickoff? You didn't see there's another video out of somebody shooting themselves in the foot with a...
Oh, at that class?
Yeah.
That's it's a fucking stupid gun. I don't get, like...
I keep saying it's like the Pedersen device of the pistol world. Like, we had this hammer-fired gun, and it's like, what if it was Striker? And you're like, well, I guess we could squeeze a Striker mechanism in there. It's like, yeah, do that. Just like shove a Striker mechanism into a hammer-fired gun setup. It's like, no,
yeah, who could have imagined that something would go wrong with that? That's no, it's stupid. And anyone who, I'm sorry, if here's the problem with the 320, it doesn't shoot bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it shoots fine. It's really, really dumbly made, and there's kind of no way around that. Like, the only argument in favor of the 320 is mine works for me, which is not a fucking argument. So, but what is there to say aside from that?
Supposedly, didn't I hear Chicago? Was it Chicago or New York? Somebody was like, yeah, we're pulling those. You're not allowed to carry them anymore as a cop. There's a big police force just this week.
Yeah, I know that we saw a bunch of them show up on the surplus market. That was really funny.
You should grab them, see if you get the unlucky, like, play Sig Roulette, see if you can get a bad one.
I have one of the M17s, and so that's as early as I think you can really get with these stupid guns. So I can't tell you firmly enough that I don't want any more. Like, I have one for my little bad gun collection, right?
We were talking about it before because it's a couple stacking issues, right? Like, it's a partial engagement of the sear, and then there's a safety system that fails. And it's all supposed to be like out of spec rounded parts. But I was looking around and I did not see what I expected with all the controversies, that somebody would have an animation showing the failures. But no, there's like some x-ray photos and some documentation from court cases that are like, oh, here's what's going on. No one actually animated it. And I was sitting there going, I don't know if I should waste Bruno's time with this or not, because I need him to animate things for the actual show. But it is tempting to be like, can we just do a video in which we explain what people think is happening to this? Or will Sig just come yell at me?
No, we should do that. You should do the Bruno, have the Bruno do it. Then we can do that, definitively, clearly explain what's going on with the 320. And then in the same breath, we can upset Runkle and show him the different clicks on the SAA.
No, that wasn't what made him mad because he didn't claim anything about the.
No, it was the beat. I know. I'm just showing you.
The stupid actors should be the ones handling the ammo thing.
Yeah, no, because if you shake it, the beat.
No, you shake it. There's a beat. I'm like, have you ever shot black powder? Unless they're like fully packed black powder and not any other thing, they can shake on there. Like you get cowboy loads and it's just like shake it, and you can feel something in there, you know?
Also, have you ever handled one of the dummy rounds that I made that I don't put anything in?
There's not a perfect dummy round. Like there just isn't a perfect version of that. But that's an old argument. Anyway.
No, it's the Sammy standard dummy round.
There's smart rounds and there's dummy people.
I promised you a personal story since we're at the end of this. And Matt hasn't heard the story. Yeah, right at the beginning I said I had a personal story before we got on here that you would enjoy. It's very short.
Oh.
So Suze has a new job. And she works for industrial chemical stuff, right? Not gun industry. But she's working for a very large firm that apparently does have a sub-product that is something to do with a gun oil or a reloading grease or something like that. And
reloading grease. Magazines.
Huh?
Put it on your magazines. It's reloading grease.
No. For case resizing. So I can't remember what it was. It doesn't matter. The point being is she goes to a perfectly normal workplace that's a corporate center. You know what I mean? And she travels for this in order to go to the northern part of the country and deal with these people. And the gentleman that's showing her around and everything they're talking about trade shows that may or may not attend for this product line that they work with, blah, blah, blah. And so they start this game of like worst trade shows they've ever been to. And so this gentleman's like, oh, there's this one. It was the most expensive one we've ever been to. It was a complete waste of time. And it was the most degenerate, like, party atmosphere where no one seemed to be there to do their goddamn job. And it was just a complete mess. And she's like, what was it? And he just goes, oh, it's called SHOT Show. And she starts like, she makes a face because she's trying to go, like, oh my God, what happened at SHOT Show? And he starts going, yeah, it's like for the firearms industry. And he's like trying to explain SHOT Show to Susan. She's like, no, I have standing invites for SHOT Show. I'm allowed to go anytime I want. He's just like, what? She's like, I got a lot of friends in the gun industry. But like from this guy's perspective in the chemical whatever world, he's like, yeah, we go to conferences and people, you know, some people cheat and play around and do stupid stuff, but like it's in the background. And then it's like SHOT Show though. What the hell's wrong with those people?
Yeah.
So just so you guys know what you look like from the outside, you look like the worst trade show ever. It's great.
It's awful.
Matt's gone. He's ready for bed.
What? All I know is that I've gotten a good response from my brand of SHOT Show coverage.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to increase that.
Okay.
But
if this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll go.
Yeah. If this video gets 1,000 likes and an update and the Patreons, you have to join both Patreon. You have to join all three of our Patreons.
How many? Wait, what's the third one?
You have yours. I have
mine. Oh, me. Yes. Okay. Join me.
Anyway, then me and Ivan will go, and Othias is banned.
Technically, my show doesn't exist right now, so it's fine.
Oh, right. Yeah.
We're down for the new studio. Like
I know.
This is like the last time this will get seen, probably. Actually.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't know of the new studio. I didn't know if I didn't know if that was public.
No, there's going to be one. I didn't say what it is yet. I guess you know the theme. I already told you the theme, but like
I know the whole thing. It's going to be
My
cool.
Little Pony.
Yeah, my
Edit that out.
Gunship is magic.
No, don't worry. I won't tell them about the whole kitchen thing.
Yeah. We'll put it in the oven. We've got one that's already been done. Let's pull it out.
Make him put him in a stew.
Yeah, it's moving along pretty good actually. But the problem is it's so weird because I've almost got the studio done, and then it's still going to be weeks before I can get an episode out because I have to build all these assets around the new look. You know, so
why don't you just talk off the cuff just about a gun?
I'm debating it. Today I was thinking about can I make a TikTok? Like, can I do like a vertical format easily, like YouTube Shorts and TikTok, that kind of thing? Do I need to start scripting in a brief summary of the episode in a vertical format in which it's just me stupidly sitting there? So it's like I film the episode in the studio and then turn around and pull out a cell phone.
I'm gonna for once give you a good idea.
Huh?
You have so like, do you know the guns whenever I come over that you show me that are just like puzzle box contraptions?
Yeah.
You need to just line all of those up in one day and just do 60-second videos of you like loading and manipulating each one of those.
That's not a bad idea.
With you just making with your serious face the whole time.
Did I tell you about the Bruno situation? About Bruno going to a gun range down there in Florida?
No.
Bruno went to a range in Florida. I got to ask him where. But the rules at that range were you have to set your firearms down and step away from the table, and then they check them clear for you. Which I thought was
I've been to one of those. It might have been one of the FWC ranges. Some of them are run like that, and I had a fun. Wait. You go on.
Do not go to those after I give you this idea until you take a. You have to find a way to surreptitiously film this, because I was like, Bruno's telling me this, and I went, "Oh my god, I want to take my Widowmaker." And then like he's like, "Oh, we could take like a Brixia, which is the most impossible to open handgun ever, because you're just like, or like the Smith & Wesson 1930.
Yeah. The button.
Don't know how to. And so like, and then Bruno's like, "Well, you're only allowed to have like this many long guns and this many handguns." I was like, "This makes it funnier." And I was like, also, now that that's a limitation, we should show up separately at similar times and get like 3 groups of people and have one like retired, because it's always old retired boomers that do this, right? Just one poor old man going from gun to gun to gun, being like, what? Like clearly not being able to open a single one of them would be amazing. Like just to drive one man insane as he tries to clear a bunch of impossible to clear guns unless you know the weird thing about that gun.
I'd bring the Brita PG, close the bolt on it, and then they'd pull it back and be like.
My favorite is like, I think I have like a Roth Sauer 32 that I've never been able to make the ammo for it. No one has a stripper clip for them, but I got it inexpensively and set it aside for the series. But you have to turn the bolt and then pull back. You have to manually unlock the bolt and then pull back to open that gun up. And so I was just like, I want to take that one. Like I just want to take all of my worst guns for them to have to show clear. And then even that, I thought, like, what about all the guns that are just like blowback whatevers that have no lock open? They just don't.
Yeah.
Like Dryza 1907, where you have to grab in front and pull it back, and then you can't lock it open. It just doesn't. Is that going to drive them insane? Are they going to try to shove a safety flag in there? Like,
I hate it so much.
Anyway, that's my fun game.
Yeah, I know. That's good. All right, guys. It's 4:04 a.m. I hope you enjoyed the friendship simulation.
Bedtime not found.
Please direct. If you're ever whining, "Oh, Thias isn't on there," you need to direct your complaints to him so that he is around
Matt
the general orbit. That was solid. All right, guys. We will see you next time. As well as check your internet.
Mothership to Othias. Come in, Othias.
Mm-hmm. It's good.
Mothership to Othias. Come in, Matthias.
Hello?
Oh boy. Am I back?
He's back.
You know what's fun is when your municipality signs up for a monopoly with one internet provider, so this is the service you get forever.
Yeah.
No.
This podcast has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. For more, visit firearmsradio.net.